People often ask me, what has been the biggest difference that you've noticed since coming here from the United States? And I will usually tell them, well, in the United States, when things happened, it was the expectation that on Friday night or Shabbat morning, I would answer them from the bima. And I would change what I was writing at the last minute, and I would alter what I was saying. And here, there's less of a pull to do that. The bima isn't a cable news show. And I think everyone kind of appreciates that. And so, when I talk about something from the news, you know how important it is. You know how vital it is. And so when I woke up on Thursday morning, as many of you may well have, and read the following headline out of Israel, "Coalition bill will ban mixed prayer anywhere at Western Wall and nix egalitarian plaza," my hackles rose. And then 2 hours later, I got to the office, and the headline now read, "Amid furor, Prime Minister says shelving bill that would criminalize mixed prayer at Western Wall." So how did we get there? How did we go from business as usual when I went to bed on Wednesday night, to a ban on mixed prayer when I woke up Thursday morning, to by the time I had driven down Bathurst, we had reversed the entire thing and we're back to where we started? First, it's important to understand the current status of the Kotel Plaza, the Western Wall in Israel, which is regarded by many in Judaism as one of the holiest places in our religion. The Kotel is treated as both a universal World Heritage Site, which means that it has unique protections and is open to visitors and tourists, Jews and non-Jews from all over the world, and at the same time, it is simultaneously ritually governed legally beneath the auspices of the Rabbanut, which are the state-appointed authorities affiliated with ultra-Orthodoxy. As such, there are parts of the Kotel which are explicitly designated for men. There are pieces of it which are explicitly designated for women. And there is a part which has been hard-won through significant legal action on behalf of pluralistic movements in Israel, led mostly by Iraq, which is identified as egalitarian. And a few years ago, in 2016, Benjamin Netanyahu's government, which is a different government from his current government, made certain promises and concessions to the liberal streams of Judaism in what we call the Kotel Compromise. And in this agreement, Netanyahu held firm that the Kotel Plaza would remain an ultra-Orthodox space, and therefore, in return, he promised significant funding for the egalitarian section of the wall, new construction that would make it more accessible, and legal protections for worshipers there so that they would not be restricted by the rulings of the Rabbanut. And yet, shortly after, significant political backlash from his Orthodox allies threatened the stability of his government, and so he froze the plan with no action taken towards its implementation, which has led us to our current status quo, where there is the egalitarian Davidson Center / Robinson Arch section of the wall, which is in the historical archaeological park, and then there is the Orthodox Kotel Plaza, which is the iconic section of the wall most people envision when they think of the Kotel. No one is really happy about what happened. Both sides want the government to fulfill its promise, whether that promise is the one which politicians regularly make to ultra-Orthodox parties to restore the holiness of the Kotel by outlawing entirely egalitarian Jewish practice and enforcing laws on modesty and cell phone bans on Shabbat, or from the liberal side, that they should fulfill the law which was put into place, which Iraq and Women of the Wall and other non-government organizations fought so hard, and they want the government to fulfill its legal obligations to follow through on said Kotel Compromise. And so this week, on Wednesday, Shas, one of those ultra-Orthodox parties inside the coalition that is currently governing the state of Israel, advanced a bill for reading and did so apparently without consulting their partners, specifically without consulting the prime minister or his party. And part of that bill was to fulfill that previously mentioned promise to their voters, to retake control and to outlaw this egalitarian Jewish practice. And it actually went one step further, in fact. Instead of simply restoring authority or outlawing practice, it actually promised to criminalize egalitarian Jewish prayer with a fine of up to 10,000 shekels, which is around $3,000 American, and even threatening jail time. And so as this news of this bill broke in Israel, condemnation swelled from across the Jewish world, including from inside right-wing circles inside of Israel. Various Netanyahu allies were furious at the lack of respect paid to the prime minister and the seemingly fly-by-night decision-making of the Shas party. And also, this brazen demonstration showed how reliant Netanyahu is at the moment on his coalition partners, how shaky his control on government must be, because they should think that they can make this kind of grand, swelling declaration without even getting his endorsement? Netanyahu, if you've been following politics at the moment, cannot allow his coalition to fall. And so it seems that his partners think they can demand things from him that once upon a time they never would have thought to ask for. And Netanyahu is still Israel's longest-serving prime minister and a master of the political machine. And so within hours of this bill being advanced, he re-leveraged his control of the government, vowed to freeze said legislation, and appeared by video promising, I quote, "I heard the headlines this morning about the Western Wall, and I wish to assure and clarify the status quo at the Kotel, which is precious to all Jews, will remain precisely as it is today. The Western Wall will remain exactly as it is today." And so despite this deep upswelling of emotion and condemnation, it seems that ultimately it's a bit of a non-story. Nothing happened. We're back to business as usual. And to my friends in Israel, who don't particularly consider the issues of the Kotel to be matters of importance compared to, say, the upswell in Palestinian terrorism, the disintegration of civil discourse, the continued battle for the judiciary, this issue has already slipped out of the news cycle. But there's an important question that underlies this that might have escaped us, which is why? Why would one of the political parties, why would Shas make this surprising and ill-thought-out political move, which in 24 hours pushed them from being Netanyahu's staunchest ally to forcing them into publicly walking back and playing the political blame game? And the answer seems to be that on February 28th, the Israeli High Court will be reviewing the Kotel Compromise to see if judicial intervention will be necessary at this point. And that decision can force the government to fulfill the legislation from 2016. Because frozen legislation can only be frozen for so long. Eventually you have to thaw it out, and it either needs to be fulfilled or it needs to be amended and replaced. And so if this new legislation, this criminalization had passed, well then judicial intervention as a whole would have become unnecessary. And so here we see that this greater conversation in Israel about judicial power and judicial intervention is not limited to only issues that are happening over there in the secular world, in the government world. There is a big question that is being asked, which is when a government fails to live up to the laws and promises that it has made to its citizens, who is going to hold them responsible? And so as I close, I want to remind us all about what Rabbi Splansky spoke on from the Bima a few weeks ago in our sanctuary, that now is not the time to disconnect or turn our backs on or disassociate from what's going on in Israel. Our brothers and our sisters across all expressions of Judaism and observance and political background and origin need us now more than ever. because the cause of egalitarianism and pluralism and liberalism and Jewish democracy is not separate from the question of judicial overhaul. It is not separate from the health of Israeli democracy. These things are intimately linked, and our voices are needed now, and our support is needed now. And I would add that our Ahavat Yisrael, our love of Israel, is needed now too. As Rabbi Daniel Hartman said when he visited us shortly after the elections, you don't love democracy if you only love it when you win. If you believe in democracy, you need to love it when you lose. And I would add that it is a sign of political maturity when you can love a place and still be opposed to policies or dislike certain politicians. And that I don't think that there is anyone who loves their country and simultaneously agrees with every choice made by its government, with every choice made by its politicians or its leadership. And so, on this Shabbat, I would remind us that when we disagree, it is actually patriotism and love which pushes us to make the things that we love better. Our Israel Committee is working so hard and providing so many wonderful opportunities to engage with Israel here at Holy Blossom. I hope that you will join us in the support. I hope you will join us in the struggle, and I hope you will join us in our love. Shabbat Shalom.